What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, currently ranking and reviewing the 26 Frank Zappa tours he played during his lifetime. I'm not including the hologram tour of what, last year, 2 years ago? I did not see it, but I'm also not including it. And we are now starting at number 26, going to number 1. On number 7, Fall 72, aka the Petit Wazoo Tour. This took place in the fall of 72, late October through middle of December. This was a 6-piece horn section, and a very, very interesting band. No keyboardists, no percussionists. It was like Frank on guitar and vocals. There was a slide guitar player, Tony Duran, amazing slide guitar player. And I Wikipedia'd him to see what else he had played on. Apparently he played on nothing else. Like, I could not find, I didn't spend a lot of time looking, but it was like a blank slate. So like it referenced this tour and the previous tour, but then there was no other recordings for this guy. And his slide guitar playing is ridiculous. If you know anything about Tony Duran, or, maybe the Wikipedia page is just like, nobody updated it and there is information out there, please comment below and let me know, because fantastic slide guitar player. And in a lot of these shows, all of these shows, it seems like he gets 2, sometimes 3, just really, maybe only just 2, but 2 lengthy moments to just shine in almost every show. And his playing is really good. Dave Parlotto on bass, amazing bass player. The amazing Jim Gordon on drums. Gordon played drums on Derek and the Dominoes, Layla, and other assorted love songs, which I think is one of the best albums of all time. The drumming on that is just perfect. He probably played on half of your favorite early 70s rock songs. The dude was quite the, I guess he was a studio session musician, essentially, or just a journeyman, it seems more like. But his sort of career and like sort of life in the public kind of ended tragically. He was schizophrenic. He's in prison. He's been in prison now since 1984. So things, unfortunately, did not end well for him. But his drumming is ridiculous, amazing. And then you had a 6-piece horn section. Gary Barone on trumpet, Earl Dumler on oboe. I think he also played the sarrusophone. Malcolm McNabb on trumpet, Tom Malone on trumpet, trombone, and sax. Bruce Fowler on trombone, Glenn Ferris on trombone. I think those are it. That seems like way too many trombones. I'm sure they played other stuff, but that might be what it was. And then that was it. No keyboardists, no percussionists, so no vocalists. Frank did all the singing. I think there were only 3 songs on which he sang regularly on this tour. Montana, which kind of had a really neat, very, I don't know how to describe it, but almost like a German rock, weird. It had a weird opening that was very almost like robotic and motoric kind of before it went into the Montana we know and love. Really good guitar solos in that. None of that post guitar vocal part. I ride a little tiny horse. That was not there yet. But a really interesting version of essentially what is the same song. He sang that. He sang Cosmic Debris. He sang Rollo. Up until the release of Little Dots. I think it's on Little Dots. Maybe it's Imaginary Diseases. No, it's Little Dots. Up until the release of Little Dots, Rollo had first been released on You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 1 at the end of Don't Eat the Yellow Snow. And Tommy Mars sings vocals over essentially what is the third part of the full version of Rollo. So the full version of Rollo has this vocal part. I'll put that Frank sings. I'll put the lyrics right there. Not very good lyrics. But it does deliver the absolutely classic line, Rollo, if you love me, do like I told ya, and fetch unto me a Baroque magnolia. Yeah, no idea why, but that is just a great lyric. So that's the first part of the song. Then there was an incredible Tony Duran slide solo with some great accompaniment behind him. The rhythm section is ridiculous on this tour. And then you would get the instrumental version of what we got with vocals on stage 1. And then eventually we got versions without vocals and things got released throughout time. And on Little Dots, you get the full version. Anyways, he sings on that. That was my point. And I don't think there's any other songs that have vocals. They do play Plastic People at one show. They had a lot of things. So one of the things that makes this tour as high as number 7, and the reason it's not higher than number 7 is closer to number 1, is just because there's 6 other tours and something had to be 7. I have no complaints, 0 complaints. There's nothing wrong with this tour. This is an amazing tour. Lots and lots and lots of solos. If you don't like solos, horn solos, guitar solos, drum solos, bass solos, skip this tour. You will hate this tour. Every song, I think every song but one has at least a pretty lengthy solo, or maybe has moments where people are supposed to improv and do little runs. Something like America Drinks and Goes Home, there's little pockets of solos, but you don't get like a lengthy jam. And the only song that really doesn't have a lengthy solo at all, or any even moments of improv, I don't think, are I'm Not Satisfied, which is possibly one of the greatest songs this band performs. Just 2.5 minutes, just a full 6-piece horn section version of I'm Not Satisfied. Just absolutely fantastic. I know you can find it out there on YouTube, so if you're interested, check that out first. I want to say it's played at the Kansas City show. I think it opens. There's both the Kansas City shows are out there, the early and the late show from 12/2, I think is the date. 12/2. Check that out and check out the I'm Not Satisfied first. 2.5 minutes of your time. It just sounds amazing. But anyways, I have a lot of really positive things to say about this tour, so I'm kind of all over the place. But going back to the 6-piece horn section thing, other than the 68-69 Mothers, which was essentially a 4-piece horn section when Underwood would play, and was not on keys, I think is Frank's greatest horn section. Like the things he did with that band, the Pound for a Browns from late 68 and 69 are just some of the most ridiculous stuff ever. And the use of the horns and the arrangement of that song, I think is like, just like untouchable as far as like upper echelon Frank music. The String Quartet, it was called for a while. But so when I think of like bands that have horns, every other band that follows is just pretty much fighting for that runner-up spot to the 68-69. And I think the Petit Wazoo band is, for me, easily the one that is best of all the horn bands. You have like April, May 74, you had several horn players, and the way the songs were arranged really emphasized those horn players, and that was fantastic. You had the Grand Wazoo, which was like a 12-piece horn section. You had the 88 band, which was a 5-piece horn section. You had the Christmas shows. Out of all of those, this tour is the one that I think by far uses the horns the best, gives them the most time to just solo at length, solo over what sounds like Frank's just letting the rhythm section take direction and like go where they want to go, and also times where Frank is definitely conducting the band and, you know, things are happening according to Frank's whim. You get a little of both of that, but there are just so many incredible solos at each show, and people really get a chance to stretch out. And as you listen to more and more shows, you realize that they are taking advantage of sort of the space they have and not just playing the same solo every night. You know, understanding that they're allowed to take chances and do different things, and kind of, it's just really, it's engaging. Every show I've heard from this tour is just really engaging. So anyways, yeah, so those are the members of the band. An excellent 6-piece horn section. Frank only sang in a couple songs. Almost every song had a solo. There were like 3 or 4 songs that only had guitar solos. Cosmic Debris only had a guitar solo. Montana only had a guitar solo. Rollo only had a slide guitar solo. And Don't You Ever Watch That Thing only had a guitar solo, Frank guitar solo. I think those are the only ones that didn't have at least a guitar solo and a horn solo, or just horn solos, or some sort of extended improvisation that wasn't just like a guitar solo slot. You can hear this band on Imaginary Diseases and Little Dots. There was a song called Imaginary Diseases on that, which was only played on this tour. There was a song called Little Dots on Little Dots, parts 1 and 2, that was only played on this tour. And I do think one of the great, I don't want to say failures because that's a little bit harsh, but one of the great missed opportunities of the 88 band, that 5-piece horn section band, that I am pretty sure Frank knew that was his last tour. I just get it had a very like career retrospect quality about it that in hindsight And the more I listened to that tour, it feels like Frank knew it was the end. He knew he was going a different direction. He probably wasn't going to tour again, especially after the trouble that tour gave him. But I think he knew going into it. But I think one of his great missed opportunities was not playing a song that was like revisiting a song that was only played on this tour as like a callback to the horn section and the callback to that tour that didn't even have a keyboardist, right? And so it would have been really neat to hear like an Imaginary Diseases, or to hear the full version of Rollo, which is probably the song he would have picked had he done it. But the thing I really wanted to hear would be if in the middle of Big Swifty, ideally Big Swifty, because it came from the Grand Wazoo Tour, or a King Kong, or in the middle of one of those monster jams, the band just dropped into the Little Dots. It's about a minute long, kind of sounds like Approximate meets the Black Page. It's just really weird, just very Ornette Coleman-ish, free jazz feel, and then it goes into a bass solo and a drum solo, and then just a beautiful, just lengthy jam always before returning to the theme. If in one of those improvs in 88, they had just dropped Little Dots in with that 5-piece horn section and then just recontinued with solos, that would have immediately jumped the 88 tour up like 6 slots on my list. Would have been beautiful. Anyways, so yeah, you can hear them on those 2 releases. And then there's also a track on One Shot Deal called Trudging Across the Tundra, which is from one of these shows. And that is a good example. I'm pretty sure where this comes from is it's called that, the title, because what this is once in at least every show, seems like every show. If there was an early, late show, maybe once in one of the 2, Frank would say, we're just going to make something up right now. And there were 2 instances where when he says that, somebody yells Louie Louie, and then they play Louie Louie and the Plastic People. There was another time where somebody yells Caravan, so they play Caravan with the drum solo into When the Saints Come Marching In. But most of the time it was just like, we're going to make something up. Be like a blues jam, or, Frank would just tell them to do something, they'd go off in some direction. Once the sort of vibe was established, people would get a chance to solo. Frank usually delivered incredible solos during these improvisations. But Trudging Across the Tundra is one of these improvisations. I'm pretty sure on a tape, it's from an early DC show. Pretty sure tape traders call this 7 because it must be in 7, I'm assuming. But the name Trudging Across the Tundra this jam was given that name by the ZFT because if you listen to the bass lick in like the latter half of the improvisation, it sounds very, very similar, if not the same, to the bass pattern that is played in the early versions of Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, which can be heard on Crux of the Biscuit. So there is the connection that this completely made up, one-time only improvisational jam led to the creation of Don't Eat the Yellow Snow. And the ZFT is saying, yes, it did. We are calling it that. I don't think they're saying, hey, maybe they're similar. I think they're saying, no. Frank took this and remembered it and used it, which makes a lot of sense because, a lot of the things he throws in guitar solos or jams, in some years show up as songs in later tours. But anyways, don't know what I was talking about. But anyways, his solos are really good. On this tour. I think they're more like, I want to say they're very exploratory, it seems, and like every time he steps up and plays, he's kind of just poking in different corners and kind of doing different things. I don't think anything ever gets way too extreme or crazy where it's able to transcend like the top tours for guitar playing, but it is never dull, Frank's guitar playing on this tour, and he gets a lot of chance to do it. Songs that are played on this tour, America Drinks and Goes Home, just kind of similar to the Zappa New York version, just kind of a really festive, frantic reimagining of the Absolutely Free track. Chunga's Revenge, pretty beefy, sounded really good with a couple solos in it. I think there was a solo, then you come back into the da-na-na, and then Frank solos. That's pretty nice. What else have I not mentioned? Duke of Prunes, one of Frank's most beautiful melodies, played just beautifully. This had this was a guitar solo by Frank, as typical, as you could hear, like orchestral favorites, but there was also another horn solo before it. Farther Oblivion was played, which is the sort of 3-part monster, which would be like one part, which eventually went into Gregory Peccary, and then solos, and then another part, which became the Bebop Tango, and then usually more experimental. Frank steps up and starts conducting things, solos, and then the ending, which eventually became Cucamonga. So we got that. What else? I'm Not Satisfied. Go check that out on that Kansas City thing. That thing is amazing. What else was played? There's a lot of things you'll see if you look at set lists from this that say like Casey Blues or the name of the city in blues. And those are all like improvisations where Frank's like, we're going to do this. And that's about it as far as songs that were played. They're a very limited number of tunes. Son of Mr. Green Jeans, which was pretty much like your standard instrumental version of Mr. Green Jeans with solos thrown in the middle. Waka Jawaka on a horrible sounding Halloween tape, but that's one of the beauties of like listening to really bad tapes is like really good performances, such as this Waka Jawaka on Halloween, kind of like shine through the muck and the distortion, and you're able to like, man, if this sounded good, it would like be one of the best things ever. And Willie the Pimp was played, and kind of was played sort of not as beefy as you wanted. But the solos kind of salvaged it, saved it from being kind of a disappointment. But a really good tour. Like, I got no complaints. Yes, some songs could have sounded a little heftier, but that's my own personal preference about what I'm looking for. But the solos are always spectacular, I think, on any show. And it's just, yeah, there's usually one song Frank sings, so you get a vocal song at some point, and then everything else is solos. Yeah, I got no complaints, man. Amazing tour. Shows that are worth checking out. The 10/29/72 Binghamton show is pretty good. The Halloween shows are interesting and I think great shows, but the sound quality is really bad. 11/11/72, which had the caravan with When the Saints Go Marching In. 11/12/72, which has the Louie Louie and the Plastic People. Interesting moments. And then the Plastic People is a lot like the stage 1 version. And then solos, because there's always solos. And then 12/2/72 Kansas City, both the early and the late are out there on the internet. And so it's a good real and I want to say it might be 2 complete different set lists, both shows. But I think they are complete different set lists, both shows. Maybe not. That seems weird. But either way, they're pretty different shows and definitely both worth checking out. But anyways, that's all I got for this tour. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of it, if you check it out, all that kind of stuff. Comment below, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm rambling. Thank you much, and peace and take care.